Hello again and good afternoon. I'm Maha and we are back with you live from the LinkedIn Hub on day 4, the final day of advertising week. And with us is Seth Godin. He is an author and entrepreneur and he has one of the coolest and most popular blogs in the world.
That's what they say.
I would say so. And we were chatting a little bit now and you gave me a quote that I kind of thought was really cool because it everybody's talking about how do we get the consumer to watch and, ads that they block versus ads that they want to see versus native ads versus. But you said something that I liked. You said the only ads people want to see are the ones they missed if they were gone, which says a lot because it's like you don't think of ads as something you're really going to miss unless it's like the super cool Super Bowl ads or something. But so let's elaborate on that a little.
Well, that's a great place to start. So if we think about what the idea of permission marketing was and still is, anticipated, personal, and relevant ads always work better than noisy spam.
Right.
And since I wrote that book 16 years ago...
You said relevance 16 years ago?
Well, I did. What we've seen for the last 16 years is most advertisers sneaking around, gathering data without us knowing it, putting up pop-ups, pop-unders, sneaking around the spam laws. There's all these trucks parked on the street saying you can do this on our radio or this with our fancy thing. All of which is about subverting the desire of the consumer to watch what they want to watch and do what they want to do. So is it any surprise that ad blockers are taking off? That with one button you can just turn off all the noise? Why wouldn't you? Well, the only way around it is for advertisers to stop being noisy. To stop saying, I've got average stuff for average people, look at me. Right? That doesn't work. If an advertiser shows up on Twitter and says, look at me, we just ignore it, right? We just go away. And so more and more customers or consumers, prospects are saying, you've branded yourself to death. I'm not interested. But then we see brands come along like Lululemon or Airbnb or Uber that grow like crazy.
But is that because of how amazing they're doing branding themselves or because they're just offering something that is really needed?
They make a product worth talking about, a purple cow. Something that people want to talk about will get talked about. If it gets talked about, there's no spam filters, there's no ad blockers, and the word spreads. So first job, stop making average stuff. Stop compromising. Instead, make something worth making. Job number 2 is build a story around it, a story that's true, that people want to hear. That if you show up with something that people want to hear, they will choose to listen to you, and then no ad blocker in the world is going to stop you.
That's so funny. This is a really random example, but one time I remember hearing the story, so Spanx, all these women wear Spanx, and this woman has become a multi-billionaire, right? Yeah. And I never paid attention to them. I know what they are and so on. But I remember one time hearing her story, and to me that was the biggest ad in the world. This woman who was a human, it was a very human, very genuine story about her personal need one time that she was wearing white pants. And so I think that is amazing, but that's kind of a tall order, Seth. You're asking, there's a lot of products in the world. Not everybody can make a super special product and then tell a great story about it.
I love what you just said. So let's see if we understand what you're saying. It's not a tall order for Procter & Gamble to spend $2.4 billion yelling about average stuff. But it is a tall order for a woman who needs a girdle to invent one that women want to wear. I'm not buying it.
How much better can they make their laundry detergent or their diapers?
They better make it better, or I'm just going to buy the cheap one. And that's what happened. The reason that Procter & Gamble is stumbling is because for 50 years, they were built on TV. Soap operas are named after Tide, soap. That's why they're called soap operas. But that doesn't work anymore. So now we go to Walmart. Give me the cheap one because they're all the same.
Give me the store brand because it doesn't matter.
So there's 10 hotels. There's Hilton and there's Hyatt and there's this H and that H and this M and that M. And then there's Airbnb, which is a totally different business. Guess which one grew last year, right? Well, the one that's worth talking about. So you know what's a tall order? Succeeding is a tall order. And if you want to succeed, my argument for 15 years has been stop sneaking around, because we can't name one company that's succeeding by sneaking around, and instead get to work making something people will wait in line for. Instead of saying, I'm going to come up with a good ad for a Chevy, go make a Tesla.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I agree with you, and I see where you're going with that. So let's talk about, but question though. You're saying people will only want to watch the ads that they're going to want to watch. Do people really want to watch ads at all?
Well, what we know is that when you or your friends buy Vogue magazine, you're not buying it for the articles. You're buying it for the ads. That a copy of Vogue that had no ads in it would be worth less to you than a copy of Vogue with ads in it.
That's actually true.
Right? Because if you're looking for shoes, you want to see who's selling shoes.
And you want to see what's fashionable,
Exactly.
and all the big brands are showing you what's fashionable
Exactly.
and all that stuff.
Or in the old days, the Yellow Pages, you used all the time. What's the Yellow Pages? It's a
Ad.
big book of ads. Right? So there's plenty of history of people seeking certain kinds of ads in certain genres, in certain moments. Those are the places where ads work. So Google, most people don't know how Google makes its billions and billions of dollars. They make their billions of dollars because you do a search for left-handed juggling clubs, and then a little ad
Not
shows up
very
for
often, by the
left-handed
way.
juggling. Well, it's not for
I'm
you,
kidding, I'm
right?
kidding, I'm teasing.
So that ad in that moment, at that place, you asked for that ad.
Yeah.
That's why it's worth something. They can't run that ad when you do a search for something else.
Right.
Well, that's where we're going. When the long tail goes out, mass becomes this illusion. And so we pay extra for the Super Bowl, not because Super Bowl ads are worth more, but because it's the only place you can buy everyone.
Yeah.
But everyone's worth less than it was ever worth before.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So I want to talk a little bit about the whole permission marketing thing. I know that you know, this is your baby, you know. So give me kind of the philosophy behind it. I mean, I understand the stuff we said that, you know, giving you stuff that you want. You know what I mean? So how did this come about, and then what is the execution of? How's it been, and how's it evolved?
All right, so the internet is the first medium of our lifetime that wasn't invented by and for advertisers. So magazines were invented by magazine advertisers. TV was invented by TV advertisers. That's what it's for. The internet had no ads on it for a long time. Advertisers showed up late to the game. So I was on the internet starting in 1976, and in the 1980s I was with Prodigy and
When Al
CompuServe.
Gore created the internet, right?
You know what? Al Gore gets a rough thing. Al Gore never said that. What Al Gore said
teasing.
was,
I'm totally
I sponsored
teasing.
the legislation, and I'm glad he did. Anyway, it became clear that there was nothing stopping advertisers from running all the ads they wanted because there was no one to pay. So you could just, and so I looked at that and I said, well, the response to too much advertising will be that people will say, I don't want to hear any of it. So I invented a company that said, I'm going to send you an email every couple days with a quiz question, with a trivia question, with a challenge. And if you write back with the right answer, you'll get points, and the person with the most points wins $1 million, or a car, or cool prizes. And every one of them was sponsored by an advertiser. So the response rate we were getting to those emails was 35%. The open rate was 70%. This is 1,000 times what it is today. So I showed that if people wanted the email, they would read it. And so we said, so there's two kinds of email. There's spam, there's crap, there's junk, and then there's permission email that people want to get. So then the web came along, and the same thing happened to be true. So if you visit a website because you want to buy fly fishing equipment and there's ads on it, you want to see those ads. It's like Vogue. On the other hand, if you go to BuzzFeed and they're running a gossip column and everyone's looking at it, the ad's not for you, and you're going to ignore it. So again, we get to this fork in the road for the first time in our memory where consumers can choose the ads they're going to see. And if they can choose them and you make one that they don't choose, you're invisible.
That's a really interesting point. I mean, and it also kind of shatters a lot of the stuff we've been talking about relevance. You know, how do we get people at the right time? Well, your idea is don't get them at all. Let them come and get you.
That's right.
I mean, that's a big deal. You're turning this whole week upside down here, Seth.
Yeah, that's why they don't invite me here very often. You know, so
well, I'm lucky they did this year so we could sit down
so
and
think
chat.
about mobile, right? Your phone knows where you are, and it knows what you want. So an ad that's relevant is exactly what you want in that moment. That's what Yelp can do for you, right? Oh, you're standing in front of this place. You just told me you're looking for a hummus restaurant. Here's $5 off hummus at the place 2 doors down. You want that ad,
yeah.
right? That's totally different than my phone ringing and it being one of those spammers that say, hi, I'm going to the map, come, blah, blah, blah. You just hang up. You don't even know who it is.
Yeah.
So which are you going to pick? And my argument is we should do it with intent. And it doesn't matter what the shareholders want in the short run or what the client wants in the short run. Our job as professionals is to say, don't do that. That's the wrong way. This way is the only thing that's worked for the last 15 years. Over and over and over again. This is what I've been describing, and not just me. Now there's tens of thousands of me's. And yet, the people who crank this stuff out like sausage, they say, no, 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 we'll find a new way to trick our way around this. And they're wrong. It's just not working.
Well, Seth, thank you so much. I love your insight. I've really appreciated hearing something a little topsy-turvy different from a lot of this stuff. It's very refreshing. And enjoy the not so much left of advertising week. And I hope they do invite you back next year so we can chat again.
Thanks. I'll see you soon.